can you tell us a bit about your role at the Cadogan Clinic and what the Cadogan Clinic is?
The Cadogan Clinic is a specialist plastic surgery and dermatology hospital. We'll be going for 20 years, set up by my father, who's a plastic surgeon, and my mother, who's a dermatologist.
And what do you do on a daily basis?
I'm the managing director. At some point, I've done every single thing in the clinic. I've sat in reception, I've sat at the theatre manager's desk. These days, things have matured a little bit more. So I'm sitting in my head office, trying to make sure everything runs smoothly, operationally and culturally.
And what type of services do you provide at the Cadogan Clinic?
We are a plastic surgery and dermatology specialist clinic. So the full spectrum of cosmetic surgery, the full spectrum of dermatology, and where the two meet in the middle. So when a plastic surgeon gets referred a skin cancer case by a dermatologist.
What keeps you up at night as the managing director?
It used to be everything would keep me up at night. Now, to be honest, I think in a small business, all you can do is keep the momentum going and just trust that as long as you've got the energy to keep going every morning, then things will work out okay.
The CQC rated your leadership outstanding in 2023. What did you change to earn that rating, and how do you keep standards high as volume grows?
That was through providing leadership to our community of plastic surgeons and dermatologists. So we've got a fellowship program for plastic surgeons who have graduated from their training program. We've had about 50 since we started. We do a lot of research and write published papers as well.
Something we talk about at Coherent a lot is how to get your clinic from 1 to 5 million. So obviously the Cadogan Clinic is a lot bigger than that, but if you can think back to when your clinic was half the size, what were some of the challenges you experienced during that time?
I think the core challenge we experienced 5 years ago was that we were firefighting the whole time. We never had time to draw breath, time to actually put in a growth strategy. Ultimately, the aim was to keep hiring, but we didn't have any systems there to support all the new people coming on. So it was very disjointed growth and very 2 steps forward, 1 steps back.
So if you were advising a clinic in the same situation, what would you advise they do about that?
I think understand who you are and what your ethos is and where you can deliver advantage, and build systems around that so that you don't lose that personality as you get bigger and bigger, and as you, as the owner or manager, get further and further away from the detail. I think one of the things we've done really is put in systems that allow us to do the small detail automatically. And in fact, we're spending more time on the things that really do matter, like communicating with our patients, communicating with our doctors.
As an MD of one of the largest aesthetic clinics in the UK, how do you think of implementing AI in your clinic, and have you done so?
AI is scary because everyone knows they need to do it. Everyone fears being left behind if they don't do it or don't integrate it into their existing systems. But it's difficult to know how to navigate your way through all of the different potential products, particularly as those products are refining and defining themselves in front of your eyes. Several things are off the table for most SMEs, and that's investing in the sort of large, bespoke offerings that really drive great change. So I think the only option left to us is to make sure that the products that we work with, be that your EMR system, your CRM, has AI built in to that system so that you're using their expertise to drive you forward rather than trying to do it alone, blindfolded.
Thinking of the front desk, sort of, what are some of the challenges they experience on a daily and weekly basis?
The front desk is it's the hub of any clinic, any hospital, but is also the most chaotic point because you've got patients coming in, booking in, making payments, often picking up telephones, consultants' diaries need to change. So whilst it's one of the most important places, the clinic, it's the one which is most difficult to systemize because there's so much random chance that gets inputted into that day. What we do is we take the telephone element off the front desk so that at least they can focus on the patients and doctors in front of them. And that's all done in one of our offices.
In terms of the structure in your office of the people who are answering phone calls and making phone calls. How do you structure that at Cadogan Clinic?
We have teams of patient advisors, all of whom have a specialist knowledge. So they could be plastic surgery specialists, they could be dermatology specialists, or they could be injectable specialists. So when a patient rings in and has a query, they're able to be directed to the right person to have the right conversation.
I think the first and foremost question is, do you think there's a place for a sales desk at a clinic like yours?
I think sales in private medicine is a bit of a dirty word, but all we mean by sales is imparting knowledge and guidance to patients who are in need of knowledge and guidance, and they need to speak to a real person rather than make an online inquiry. And they want to be guided to answer all of the things that they've been afraid to ask anybody else. So you might traditionally go to a medical secretary of a surgeon, and they're brilliant. But the trouble about medical secretaries are they need to take holiday and they're ill, and then there's no one to provide that continuity of patient service when they're away. So really, all a sales desk is a set of highly specialized medical secretaries who are there on call 24/7 to answer patient needs.
Because if you think about the administrative staff or traditional medical secretary, they're not really salespeople. Do you think there's a certain capability or competency or skill set that is needed?
Yes, it's less of the administrative enjoyment of the administrative and sitting behind a computer screen, and it's a real love of having conversations with patients. You're hiring someone with a specific knowledge and a specific interest in that area rather than somebody who is a typist or
Thinking of the competencies of traditional front of house staff versus sales desk, what do you think are the differences in the skill set and competencies in these two areas?
they have completely different personalities. Someone in the sales desk, someone who's a patient advisor, loves being on the phone, loves talking about their specialist area of interest, is deeply empathetic, and who really loves after they've had a conversation to pick up the phone again and have another conversation. Whereas those in more traditional medical secretary or administrative roles are much more comfortable just booking appointments or typing up a letter.
If you were a clinic with 1 million in revenue and you were looking to scale to 5 million and you had £100,000 to play with, what would you spend that on?
The challenge that I'd be facing is how to deliver that growth while keeping all of the control I have now and trying to do that at the most limited cost possible. So whilst in my experience, we hired more people because technology wasn't there as an option, I would invest that in technological solutions that will allow me to scale artificially without bringing on bigger headcount to find out which areas could deliver for me and which areas couldn't. I might then in the future bring those things in-house, but I'll be able to go a lot faster in that scenario than I did in the past.
Your front of house staff, administrative staff don't have time to do what you've just described in the outbound. How would you suggest they progress to dabble in a sales desk or patient outreach?
I think the first thing they've got to do is acknowledge that their front desk can't do that and will never be able to do that. And then they've got to find a way as cheaply as possible and as low risk as possible in delivering all of those items. I would personally outsource it if I was in their shoes. I think the truth about the clinics in the space I'm talking about, dermatology clinics, aesthetic clinics, is that it's an extraordinarily fragmented industry. That means it's really hard work for almost everyone, and that a lot of people aren't going to survive. And as soon as one fails, another one quickly comes in on the high street to fill that gap. I think a lot of people go into it thinking it's going to be the easy option because it's something they know really well. They know they can deliver a really good personal service. But scaling up even from one doctor to 3 doctors is very difficult. And people have to be willing to take on that risk. They underestimate the risk, they underestimate the hard work, they underestimate the additional workload of just dealing with their own team and staff on a daily basis on top of being a high quality practitioner in their own clinic and the NHS. Many doctors, most doctors can probably run a really good business, but the ability to spend their time focusing on being a business, that is what will make it a success, or not about how good a practitioner they are.
Who runs recruitment at your clinic?
We've got a specialist recruiter. I think your recruiter needs to be in-house because they need to understand the personalities and ethos of your company and of the specific roles. The ideal would be to do a plug and play where someone's done all that hard work for you. But if you're going to be doing it for your own clinic, you need to know someone matches who you are, because the person that's perfect for me is not going to be the person that's perfect for somebody else. Why would I have recruitment in-house but sales happy to be outsourced? Because recruitment, you are both selling the company to external candidates and trying to match the personality types, perfectly. And that's a bit of you're feeling your way through in that question. In sales, the specialism is more the product you're selling, which frankly is more generic across all clinics and all hospitals.
Looking ahead to the next 3 to 5 years, what do you think will separate clinics that thrive from those that struggle?
Probably comes down to the age-old truth of know what you're good at and try and deliver that. I think a lot of different businesses try and scale quickly. They lose the personal touch when they do, or they try and offer everything and become masters of nothing. So I think for every business, probably in every sector, I suspect the aesthetics and dermatology sector is no different. Know what you're good at and deliver that extremely well. I think, unfortunately, half the companies probably don't do that.